Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And to all those listening online, we welcome you back to the evening segment of our Health Focus. Today at the midday service, for our midday service, we heard from Dr. Douglin on the topic, does God really care about your health? What would you conclude? Does he? He does. And he ended by saying, I wish above all things that thou mayest what? Prosper. Does prosperity apply to money only? Not at all. And be in what? I didn't say the word good, but in health. Be in health. Even as you're what? Can you get one without the next? Some people think so. Some people are prospering, the bank accounts are fat even after the pandemic and during it. But yet the health suffering. We've also seen many people who left fat bank accounts and they are no longer with us. They're 6 feet under the ground. Everybody will end up going to the same place regardless of how much money we have. So God's just clear about our health. Dr. Douglin spoke about NCDs. He spoke about suicide. Spoke about a whole lot of other things. And this evening, in our panel discussion, we will get the opportunity to hear from 4 persons here on the platform with me about health implications in Barbados. Before we begin, let us bow our heads for a word of prayer, or we can kneel. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. We do praise and thank you for this opportunity where we can gather yet again another year in the land of the living and see what heaven has in store for us in the area of health. You have given us your word today at midday, and you have given us the assurance of your word, because your word cannot return unto you void, that you wish above all things that we prosper in every area of life and be in health, even as our soul prospers. You're a God who is holistic. You look after us in every area of our lives. And in Deuteronomy 28, verses 1 to 14, you talk about the blessings that will attain to your people if they hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord your God, our God, and do all that you command us. We have learned, dear Lord, that if we are obedient to your word, we shall prosper when we go in, when we come out, when we lie down, when we rise up. And whatever we put our hands to do, you promise to bless us. And if we take heed according to your word, the blessing shall come upon us. And as the word says, they shall overtake us. We shall have enough to lend and not to borrow. In Jesus' name we pray with thanksgiving. Amen. Over to my right, we have Sister Karamita Douglin, Dr. Karamita Douglin. She's a public health specialist. She has a doctorate in public health, works as a public health consultant. She works throughout the Caribbean, and she prepares policies and strategic plans for countries in different areas of health, in the youth, the disabled, in cancer, and NCDs. And she's a person who loves to promote health. She will be looking at 2 questions. Oh, okay, good. Oh, those are 2 questions that were posed to her. We'll deal with those later. Next to her is our good doctor, Dr. E.O. Douglin. The O for me stands always on top of things. Because many years ago, he came by my house. I was a person who was into buying and selling vehicles, and I told him I was out of breath. Not knowing that the man was already 20 years older than I was. And he told me to come and walk up the hill. just up the Carlton Hill. Foolish me saying that I can kill this poor old man. And I simply go walking. After about the first kilometer, I was gasping for breath. I couldn't believe an old man could go down so fast. At that point in time, I was what, 40? Whoa. No, I was in my late 30s, yes. And he was in his 50s. I couldn't believe an old man could kill me like this. And from then on, I became hooked on this fitness train and trying to get as fit as he is. Right now, he is approaching 75. Praise the Lord. And I approaching 55. Still 20. I can't seem to catch up. I don't think I will ever catch up. But he's still in good health. So he's still prospering. So he says he's a preacher, and we all know that. He's been preaching for years since this movement started. He's also an author of many, many books. And we are still reading up to now. We have camp coming up, and we'll be reading the next one again, right? He's also a medical doctor, has been advising me in areas of health, so much so that if you open my cupboard door, I got just as much vitamins as he does, I think. He's also a health reformer, and he's always preaching prevention rather than cure. We've heard that for years. Some of us still heard it, been listening, but he preaches prevention rather than cure. He'll be looking at two very interesting questions as well, but I'm not going to that. Over on my left, we have our good sister. I know her name already. I was just trying to find the things that she gave me. Yes, I know she's Sister Atwell. The list is long. Sister Judy Atwell, she's a licensed naturopath, and she's also a naturopathic physician. You know what does mean? She deals in the fixing up of your body, the curing of your sicknesses through the use of what? Herbs and different things. Yes. She graduated in 1997 from, you said Bastyr University in Washington State. Never been to Washington before, but I promised to visit. She also holds certification as an essential oil specialist. I love essential oils, especially how they smell. And she's a raw food specialist as well, and she likes to give education on eating raw foods. Her primary focus in practice is gut health. That's an area of interest for me. Metabolism and inflammation control. She and I had a good little talk outside today. We all agree on the same point. Most sicknesses, if not all, are related to inflammation in the body. So, Sister Judy, we want to welcome you here today. And last but not least, we have our good brother, Leacock. I ain't got nothing on Saul, though. But we all know Brother Saul. He's a retired teacher, guidance counselor, yes. He's always given guidance, certified teacher for over, it's real long, Brother Saul, 30 years. I think I beat you, though. I got in 37. Licensed counselor for the last 11 years. Licensed. So you know you can get his guidance. Qualified psychologist and social worker. Does counseling at all levels. Social, emotional, mental, and the psychological level. Me, I'm just a simple teacher, and I'm your moderator for the evening. I hope you have a really wonderful time. We'll start over on the right-hand side with Sister Carmita Douglin. She has 10 minutes. Each person has 10 minutes to give their brief presentation. Over to you, Sister Douglin.
Good evening, everyone. slides. I have basically 9 slides to share with you. And my topic for this evening is public health implications impacting your health. And I want us to start to look at the definition of health so that we'll all be on the same page. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And really and truly, there are a lot of factors that affect our health. And community is one. So when we look at public health, we're speaking about the public domain, the entire community. We're looking at psychosocial, environment, all the various factors that you can think about impact your health. Thank you. Now, public health, when we look at the public health definition, is the science. There are 2 definitions I'm going to share with you actually. Science and the art of promoting health and preventing disease and prolonging life through organized efforts of society. That is one definition, one very broad definition. But the definition that I prefer is the second one. Public health is the organized effort of society to keep people healthy. So in other words, we're not focusing on disease at all. We're focusing on health and to prevent injury and illness and premature death. And Dr. Douglin will speak more on premature death. And it is a combination of programs and services and policies and projects to promote the health of all people. So I like this definition because it speaks to health, in enhancing health, and it also speaks to other things like injuries. Next slide. Really and truly, when we talk about public health, it is in our hands. Governments do a lot, but we ourselves have to do just as much. State of being free from illness, as I mentioned, and injury, and it is describing a person's mental and physical condition. So when we talk about health, we talk about both mental health and we talk about physical health. And I want you to think about these questions. Do you work to becoming healthy? You don't have to answer, but think about it. Have you adapted to a healthy lifestyle? And this entire weekend, we're focusing on healthy lifestyles. Do you obligate yourself to follow a healthy lifestyle? Are you exercising regularly? Are you eating properly? So all of these things you have to take into account when you're practicing a healthy lifestyle. So it's really in your hands. So it's not just what the government would do, but it is what you will do on your own as well. Next slide. The community impact. Now, the overall health of the community is a priority for the government of all the world. Now, the government has its part to play in when we look at public health, and then you have your part to play. So the government makes certain laws and regulations to help us with our health. Take, for example, the tobacco law. Before the tobacco laws came into effect, whenever you got on an airplane, there were persons smoking next to you, etc., and you had to be inhaling it. In your workplace, when you were sitting down at work, you had to be inhaling all that side stream smoke. And all of that was damaging youth. But now the government has put certain laws in place. Then there's also the vaccine laws. When we look at the right back in the 1918s and way back in Barbados, persons were dying from infectious diseases, whether it was malaria, whether it was dengue, whatever disease it was, because there were no vaccines in place. Now we have vaccines in place that we take for granted. Young children get rubella, they get measles, mumps, all types of vaccines. I'm not just speaking about COVID vaccine now, because I know a lot of people jump up when they hear about COVID vaccine. But I'm speaking about all those different childhood illnesses that we prevent, so we're not having deaths from those anymore because persons are vaccinated. Even traffic laws. The reason why traffic laws are in place so that you can drive responsibly. Even the seatbelt law. Before the seatbelt law, we had lots of accidents with people dying because they fell through the windscreen, etc. So the government has a place, a part to play in terms of enacting laws to help to protect society. And NGOs also help with those laws. You have, for instance, the Cancer Society, which encourage persons to come and get screened so you get early cancer detection, etc. All right? And then there's safety and health at work and in other spaces. So all of those laws are put into effect to protect the community and to protect us on the whole. Still not changing. Thank you. So what are the biggest public health concerns? And I'm just going to go through this very, very quickly. COVID, over the last couple years, 3 years or so, has been the biggest public health concern for us. And you all know why. Because persons were dying from COVID, persons were getting really ill. So as long as there's a disease that causes lots of death and illness, then it's a concern for public health specialists and for governments. And then there's the opioid crisis. You might not be as aware of it as it is in the US and those places, but lots of persons are dying from opioid intake. And then there's also the social media disinformation. And we especially saw this with COVID. Whenever you go on your WhatsApp, you go online, you see a lot of misinformation about COVID and about all the different types of things. So we saw this more and more. And then there was health inequity. When we looked at vaccines, places in Africa weren't getting, but yet the Americas was full of vaccine. We were fortunate in Barbados that we got vaccines very early because our Prime Minister made sure she reached out to India, reached out to different places. So there is inequity throughout, not only with COVID, but in other healthcare areas. If you don't have money to get some operations, which we consider as elective, then, you know, you have to wait on a long list. There's certain surgical operations that are emergencies, like appendicitis. But suppose now you're waiting to get surgery because of cancer, and you are doing it public. You have to wait on a list still. All right? So we see a lot of, so if you have money, money talks. If you can go privately and get it, you get through very quickly. And I'm just being very honest about this. So that is the situation. Even with prostate cancer, some people might have to wait on surgery. Isn't because you have prostate cancer, you can go tomorrow and get your surgery. You have to wait on a long list. If you want to get it privately, you get it within a week. All right? So that is the situation. And then there is food insecurity. There's still persons in Barbados who go hungry every day. There are a number of different food kitchens where people line up in lines and they get food because they, even though food is in the supermarket, is not on their plate. So they still have food insecurity. And we see it more in some countries than other countries. And then there is, I'm having difficulty with or without the glasses for some reason. There's mental health and social isolation. And from Elder Saul, you'll hear a lot more about that. But recently, we've had a number of suicides, and everybody's getting all up in arms and alarm because of it. But we've always had mental health issues. But because there's such stigma surrounding mental health, nobody wants to go for care. Nobody wants to go for treatment because you don't want people to see you getting treatment. But we need to put that stigma away from us. And then there's data modernization, and then there's also environmental impacting issues, and then there is cannabis. Now that cannabis is legal in some countries, or you're allowed to use a certain amount of substance, people feel that they can just, take marijuana as they feel like. But not everybody is able to sustain the marijuana. So some persons can take marijuana and walk around, they're okay. And then the other persons that take it and end up in the psychiatric hospital or end up with all types of issues. All right. Yeah. Okay, so I just want to touch very, very briefly on suicide prevention and public health. And both the WHO and CDC have issued that suicide is a preventable public health issue. And the public health population focus their approaches. I think I'm better off this way. Right, public health population focus the approach to improve community health on a large scale, but they cannot only be used to address suicidal behavior before it occurs, but it can also be to improve understanding of how suicide can be prevented. And in turn, that broader understanding can help researchers develop better and more effective intervention strategies. And I am sure you would agree with me that we will need a lot of those intervention strategies now. And I'm coming to my last slide. And the last thing really that we want to focus on is climate change in public health. And we're seeing, because of climate change, more so than ever, more viruses, more hurricanes, more earthquakes, more tornadoes. Before, we always saw these things, but even more so now, and they're coming closer and closer home. So we have to bear that in mind, that in the Caribbean, we are very unstable. And because we are so unstable, one day everything can be okay, and then the next day we have a lot of issues, houses destroyed, everything. Barbados has been very, very fortunate. And because of that, we don't take enough precautions. But when we look around at our sister Caribbean countries, we see a lot of damage from hurricanes, earthquakes, etc. All right, and so let us look now to the last thing, is the future of public health. Now, the landscape of public health is changing. Lots of technology we have now. There's food distribution, new policies, pharmaceuticals, regulations, and demographics all play a very important role. And all these factors continue to evolve, and it's important for you as an individual to understand some of these factors and to make sure that you make wise choices, as well as healthcare professionals to stay abreast of the future trends in public health. There's also increasing access to healthy foods, so therefore you need to make choices to eat healthy foods. So what we eat impacts all parts of our lives, and both the CDC reports that while our diet is among the leading causes of obesity, our food choices affect more than our waistline. How we eat can also impact our mental health, as well as our risk for diabetes, cancer, heart disease, osteoporosis, periodontal disease, and more. So we need to make wise choices, and I'm sure Dr. Douglin will tell you more about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Douglin. We now go over to Dr. Elliot Douglin, who will speak to us on the sudden death, the increase of sudden death in Barbados and in the world in general. And he'll be looking at lifestyle changes that can reduce your risk of this. Brother Douglin?
Thank you. Good afternoon again. God bless everyone. I'm talking concisely and briefly about a problem that concerns us all, the increase in sudden deaths in our country and the Caribbean and the world, sudden deaths, and also premature death. I have here from the USA and global epidemiologists that the leading causes of death in the 45 to 64 age group, young people, because the World Health Organization now says that old age starts at 75. So I'm 3 months away from old age. 45 to 64, those are young people. Okay? 45 to 64. The leading causes of death in that age group, 45 to 64, are cancer and heart disease. Breast cancer kills a lot of young women, 30s, 40s, 50s. It is quite hurtful. And colon cancer is on the increase. We have a lot more colon cancer than we hear about. And it is occurring in relatively young people. I think we were first struck with that when Malcolm Marshall, the great West Indies fast bowler, died at 42 with colon cancer. But it strikes people in their 40s, 30s, and 40s, 50s. Prostate cancer, killing young men is also a serious problem. We know that as men get older, they're going to be more prone to prostate cancer and benign prostatic enlargement. But we are finding some relatively young men, 50s, discovering their prostate cancer at stage 4 and colon cancer at stage 4. So these are the leading cancers. Of course, we are also seeing an increase in lymphomas, leukemias, myeloma, and cancer of the pancreas. All these cancers are on the increase, but the big ones are breast in our young women, colon in both genders, and young men developing prostate cancer early and getting stage 4 diagnosis. In terms of heart disease, coronary artery disease is still the major cause of premature death in the world and sudden death. That's when the coronary artery is blocked with cholesterol and inflammatory material we call plaque, and that is related to cigarette smoking, high-fat diet, lack of exercise, and also obesity and nutrition that is not really nutrition. The fast food industry and highly processed, ultra refined foods. Coronary artery disease can cause a heart attack, and a heart attack can cause sudden death. Coronary artery disease can cause disturbances in the heartbeat, like ventricular fibrillation, when the ventricles, instead of contracting, just tremble. That can cause sudden death. Our risk factors here are high blood pressure here in Barbados and around the world. 1 in 4 adults, 1 out of every 4 adults has a high blood pressure. And don't know, especially men don't go and get anything checked until they are forced to. We see male patients or men, and you ask them, when last you had a check? Well, a long time ago, when I probe, the fellow hadn't had a check since he was born. Long time ago indeed. 60 years old, never had a check, and was now coming with a little lapse in concentration when we checked. Blood pressure 200 over 120. A TIA, transient ischemic attack, mini stroke, a warning sign of something major in a few weeks. And then when he was told about his blood pressure being high, the first statement people say, well, I don't want to take anything for the rest of my life because I don't want to take anything for the rest of my life. I say, well, you won't have much length of life to take anything if you don't get this blood pressure down. Whether it be herbal or pharmaceutical, you have to get this blood pressure down. Strokes can cause sudden death as well. Now, in women, more so than men, a serious cause of sudden death is a clot forming in a vein of the leg, like the calf vein, and then the clot moving up and lodging in the big blood vessels in the lung and causing the lung to not get any blood supply and die. We call that a pulmonary embolism. A thrombus is a clot, and embolism is a moving clot, and pulmonary embolism is when the clot comes up and jams off blood vessels in the lung, and that can cause sudden death because it will stop the heart pretty quickly. So sometimes when you hear of a young woman dying suddenly, it is usually a clot. And predisposition to clot, the contraceptive pill being taken for a long time, a woman who's just delivered a baby is more prone to a clot, obesity, bad diet, and some people just have a tendency for their blood to clot more so than others, genetic factors and other factors, and especially, as we heard already, chronic systemic inflammation. If your body is inflamed, the blood cells are sticky and can clot easily. So these sudden deaths are of concern. Here in Barbados, for example, we have 3 strokes every 2 days and 20 heart attacks a month. And a considerable number of them are fatal. And these tend to occur in young people. The leading cause of death in people over 85 is Alzheimer's. The leading cause of death in young people, cancer and coronary artery disease, and all of them are related to lifestyle. We therefore stress the importance of screening. Men over 40, if there's a family history, and men over 50 should get a PSA blood test every year or every 2 years. Women should get their pap smears, and women should get an ultrasound of their uterus when they are postmenopausal, because you don't know what may be happening in the inner lining of the uterus. And if you see bleeding when you are postmenopausal and your period stopped ever since, and now you see bleeding, it is usually an indication of what we call endometrial carcinoma, cancer of the inner lining of the uterus. And the British have told us that is on the increase, since obesity is on the increase as well. Now, the article I was just reading there from the American Public Health and Cancer Authorities is that there are some simple prevention principles. Now, well, we thank God for the Seventh-day Adventist health message. It is still the best health message in the world. And although people attack it for strange reasons, don't smoke tobacco. That shouldn't concern any of us. Avoid alcohol completely. The idea that a little bit of alcohol helps to clear the arteries has now been shown by a female New Zealand researcher to be out to see that the smallest amount of alcohol can increase the risk of cancer. Young men drinking alcohol, watch for prostate cancer. And young girls drinking alcohol, breast cancer. So tobacco out, alcohol out, that was always the Seventh-day Adventist temperance message. No tobacco, no alcohol, no illegal drugs. Then exercise, very important. And I usually ask people to show me their hands. Those who exercise 5 days a week. Remember, you're in church. 5 days a week. I can see that you're honest. 4 days a week. 3 days a week. 2 days. 1 day. No days. Well, it's got to be honest, Frankie, but you're a hard-working man. You don't have to exercise. Okay. Okay, so you get your exercise on your work. So do not underestimate the importance of exercising at least 4 to 5 days a week. Do not underestimate it. It is very important for your health. People who exercise consistently, keep me abreast of the time. How many more minutes I have? 2, people who exercise consistently reduce the tendency of their blood to clot, strengthen their heart muscle and their lungs. So eating fruits and vegetables and whole food whole, avoiding alcohol and tobacco, watching your body weight, because we're told that people who are 120% above the ideal weight have double the risk of sudden death, and smokers have 3-fold increase in sudden death. And just briefly, another cause of sudden death that we see in Barbados recently is a fatal asthma attack. Young people with asthma, they may go into an environment where there's a lot of dust and so on, and then all of a sudden, there's death. We had one of those relatively recently in Barbados. It was very, very, very sad. And then there is a sudden bleeding in the brain because of a very high blood pressure, intracerebral hemorrhage secondary to high blood pressure. So make sure you know where your blood pressure is at. Check your blood pressure, check your cholesterol, check your blood sugar, watch your body weight, eat healthy, exercise, drink more water. Prevention is always better than cure. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Douglin. He touched on an area that's very clear to me. I had bleeding in my brain just about 2 years ago. On the left side of my head, Brother Douglin, was about 1 inch inside my skull, you said? Yes? I could have been gone, but I'm here today, praise the Lord. My blood pressure was constantly up in the 150s, and I was working out in the gym. 150 and over 100 at the bottom. But thank God now he can check my blood pressure now, and it's all down in 116 over 62. I did not do like most people and talk about gradual anything. I'm gradually going to bring it down. Gradually will get you killed. You have to attack the problem quickly and be serious about it. So it was completely off. I went cold turkey on sugar. Nothing sweet crossed my mouth. Nothing. And it was exercise every day. I didn't lie down and wait for the blood pressure to go down. They got some people that when they got high blood pressure, they go on bed rest. You don't want to rest. Get up and start exercising. Stop being lazy. Stop looking for an excuse to make the situation worse. And I started drinking turmeric, ginger, and black pepper tea like it going out of style. I had to get results and get them fast. Many of you are not prepared to be like me. I'm a madman to my own self, if you want to call it that. I wanted results, and I was determined to get results. And I dropped from 265 to 218. And by the time I got on to 218, I was running 10 laps around the garrison on every Thursday evening without stopping. Now that that catastrophe has passed, I can't even run 1 lap around the garrison now. Because my weight gone back up to, well, gone up to 230, 234. And I have eased off because of the lessening down of the problem in my head. But you see what seriousness can do if you want results? You can get results. But a lot of us play around with high blood pressure, and we are not serious. We're just going for a prescription. You can get rid of it, but you have to be serious. You have to attack it. You can't play around. Stop playing around with your health. We go over to Sister Judy right now.
And everybody, wish I could say that I like public. I don't, but I do like talking about health. And so, can you hear me? Okay. Hear me. So, this evening, I decided that I'll break the 10 minutes up into little sections where I'll talk a little bit about what naturopaths do, what I will be doing in my practice here, and then a little bit about one of the topics that I will cover. And naturopaths are governed by 6 principles. And the first principle is do no harm. And that's important because as Steve was just saying, he's this hardcore, get it done, that kind of person. Well, not everybody's like that. And for some individuals, it is difficult for them to just stop everything they're doing cold turkey. That is more harmful to them than being more compassionate and doing it easier. So one of the governing principles is do no harm. You have to know your client. You have to understand what they're dealing with, how compliant they're going to be, right? And also in terms of what you're going to use as far as therapies. The second principle is the healing power of nature. So in my practice, I'll use a lot of herbal therapies, a lot of plants, a lot of whole food supplements, essential oils because they're from plants, and what else in terms of hydrotherapy? It depends on the condition of the client, though. And I also use another therapy, which is a non-invasive therapy, and it's called nutritional response therapy. I'll tell you a little bit about that after, but I wanted to mention, since I'm new here, you have to be patient with me because I don't know, I'm challenged in terms of what I have access to in terms of supplements. In the US, I use a lot of whole food supplements, and here I cannot get the same supplements that I would get in the US. So it's challenging for me to, when I start my practice, to find out exactly what I can use. Now, there was a study done a few years ago in regards to supplements, and that is that they randomly took about 300 supplements, just pulled them off the shelves. Could be any company. And what they found was that over 50% had nothing that was on the bottle. Okay? That's over 50%. Then the other 40% or so, 45%, had minimal of what was on what was labeled, and especially those with herbs in it. So the challenge, usually when I use supplements, I use a minimum of about 5 or 6 companies. These are vetted. I know what's in it. I know it's whole food, no fillers, no synthetics, things like that. But they don't sell them apart from being in the US. So one of my challenges is in starting a practice here, what am I going to use really? Now, what it means then, I have to travel to the US, get them, and then bring them back here. Or use a US address, get them sent there, and then have them come here, then go through customs, blah, 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 blah. Now, I know you have, I'm only familiar with Jen's, but I think Jen's is gone. Jen's? That's gone? Okay. There's another one that I saw on television called Nutrition Nature Centers. Okay. So they have multiple places. Well, okay. So most of the supplements then will be supplements that you would probably find like in Walmart or Walgreens or one of those places, I'm guessing. Well, I can tell you now about more than half of those you don't want to waste your money on. Okay? So when the theme for this weekend is does your health really matter? And it does. I have realized how expensive it is to live in Barbados. Extremely so. You don't have a whole lot of money to spend with food, your rent, your bills, whatever, and then supplements and different things like that for your health. I get it. I have been shocked. What I plan to do is spend a whole lot of time, I haven't done it yet, but going to these nutrition centers and really vetting them and taking time to see exactly what supplements that are worth your money, worth you spending your money on, because I've just been really surprised. So I know, I get it, I know where you are, and that's something I'm going to look into. The other principle, nutrition response therapy is another thing that I'll be doing. That is a non-invasive technique where you use the body's autonomic system to check to see if there are barriers or obstacles to cure. So you know that if you're ill, sometimes there are many things that you've tried and you just can't get over that illness. There's something underlying. And it's usually something to do with either an immune challenge, an infection, heavy metal, a scar, or food, whether it's a sensitivity or an allergy. This technique is a manual technique that I do where you scan the body, and by using this technique, I can find where that challenge is, where that barrier is, help you to overcome that barrier. Then it's easier for you to be healthier, to get healthy. So we've gone through what? Do no harm, the healing power of nature. The next one is to identify. The next principle is to identify and treat the cause. That's important. So the challenge of a naturopath is to ask you the right questions so we can find out, get to the root cause of the problem. The next one is doctor as teacher. That's one of the things I think is important that I do is education. I don't like public speaking, but since I'm new here, I'm going to have to do a lot of it so people get to know me and know what I do. Doctors are supposed to teach you. We find that when you let clients know what's going on and they understand, they're more compliant. It's easier for them to understand what you're trying to do and work with you as opposed to what you're trying to do. You know, so that's another thing. So identify the cause, doctor's teacher. How many of that? 4? Identify the cause, doctor, treat the whole person. So you're not just an entity of your disease. Try to at least treat the entire person. And the last one is prevention. So those are the 6 principles which we use. As mentioned before, in my practice here, I'll be doing the nutrition response therapy. I'll be doing the herbs, the whole supplements. Hydrotherapy will be some of the things I use when necessary. And tomorrow at the demonstration, I'll be demonstrating some of those techniques. I'll be using the hot foot bath, fomentation, contrast hydrotherapy. So I'll be demonstrating those tomorrow, as well as how to make poultices, steam inhalation, and one more thing. Remember. But one more thing. Oh, castor oil pads. You know, I know the Caribbean is very familiar with castor oil, and but it's really making a huge comeback. Not in taking it, drinking it. We all grew up with that. But it is in how to use it therapeutically, topically. So I'll be talking a bit about that tomorrow as well. Let me see if I'm leaving anything. The other thing I'll be doing in the practice, Doc spoke before about New Start. So the name of my practice will be Health Restored Naturally. That Restored is an acronym. And I've incorporated the same 8 laws of health, but I've added 2 others that I think are very important. One is detoxification, and the other one is relieving stress. So if you have an opportunity tomorrow, come by and say hello. And if I can get your information, and then in the coming weeks, I'll be able to send out other information when we get our practice going. So one of the things in the last few minutes I have that I'll be focusing on is gut health. That is so important. Hippocrates once said that all disease starts in the gut. I'm beginning to believe that there's a lot to be said for that. That reasoning is pretty sound, because we realize now that the gut holds, you know, everybody's talking about the microbiome, where 70%, it could be anywhere from 60, some people say 60, some say 70, some say 80% of the immunity is in the gut. Now, the gut is just one long tube, really, 26 to 30 feet. But it is open to the external environment, the mouth, and then the other end, the anus. So any orifice that you have, whether your ears, nose, the mouth, the anus, is open to having all kinds of microorganisms. Now, the important thing that some of them are beneficial and some are not. The challenge for us is, especially in the gut, is to keep that diversity. You want to have plenty of microorganisms. You want to have the right kind in the right numbers. You want to have minimal pathogens, and you want to have more of the friendly ones who help us. Now, the gut is only one cell thick. And the importance of that's two things. That's how any food that we take in, when it's broken down, has to cross from the gut into the blood. That's how we are nourished. Now, the other factor it has is that it has to keep pathogens out. That's what microorganisms do in the gut. They help our immunity to keep pathogens, things that are harmful to us, outside. The gut does a lot of things, and many things would disrupt that, even if we don't have good sleep, if we don't eat the proper foods, if we're exposed to any toxins. Age is a factor. Geography is a factor. Wherever we live could be a factor. So all these things play into how good our gut health will be. The challenge for us is making sure that we eat a variety of foods that will benefit, that we get enough rest, that we put things on our skin that won't cause disruption. There are many things that we place on our skin, like cosmetics and so on, that are disruptors, that that penetrate our skin and causes disruption in the so, am I talking? Okay, so my time is up. But if you ask questions, maybe I'll do a bit better.
Thank you, Sister Atwell. You touched on a very important area there, and gut health is very important to me now because lately I was having a little issue. You go into the bathroom, you're getting your stool coming out in little pencil-like forms, and they say, well, something got to be wrong here. I'm always examining myself. Remember, I will not pretend in front of you to tell you what it is, so listen. And I heard about eating this very special dish that is made in those Eastern countries, sauerkraut. Ever heard about it? It's made of fermented cabbage. But you ain't got to tell Steve Codrington something twice. I went and they got 4 cabbages from my Brother Paul. What part Brother Paul is? Yes. And he had them in the ground saying that they ain't much good, but you know he made good out of what was not much good. I get about 4 or 5 cabbages, I took them home, I grated them, and I added some pink Himalayan salt, and I took up a big empty jar, and I made it full, and I left it to ferment for 3 weeks. But you know, that Christmas, I tried at 2 weeks. But anyhow, and I started eating it with every single thing. Then to find out that it contains a high amount of vitamin K2, which is very good for the body and good for the gut. It also helps to keep the cholesterol from depositing in the arteries. You ain't got to tell me so twice. I went from 2 tablespoons to 4. Yes, no, Lord, that's a problem. No problem. Everybody is not me. I'm unique. Saints have been using that, the whole bottle gone. Stolen problems seem to have disappeared. Don't have no puffy stomach, no bloating. I was on digestive enzymes for a long time. I was taking beta-8-cl, what we call hydrochloric acid tablets, because as you get older, your hydrochloric acid levels drop. So when you think that you want Tums or you want some antacid, it is not true. Your hydrochloric acid levels are dropping as you get older. So you need more acid. And that's why a lot of us end up with some big stomachs, or we got this bloating and passing here at night and such like. I tell you the facts. And they started using that sauerkraut. I can guarantee I haven't taken a digestive enzyme in more than 3 weeks now, just because of that. Sadly, the sauerkraut is out, so I got to go and buy some cabbage tonight. Anyhow, Brother Saul, it's over to you, my brother.
Good afternoon, everyone. Last but not least time, I want to share with you this concept. Some of you are familiar with it, but not fully. Health is more than just a physical issue. And I will touch on mental health just briefly. By now you would have heard that your whole health is about and well-being is about your whole individual. And wellness includes, listen carefully, wellness includes the presence of positive emotions and moods, the absence of negative emotions like depression, and the complete, not just physical, but social, emotional, mental, psychological. How many people know when they have a psychological problem? How many people know how to treat psychological illness? How many people? Some people never heard about psychological illness. But there's something called psychological first aid as well. I'm sure Douglin would tell you more about that. Psychological first aid. What do you do with a person who has psychological problem as a first aid treatment? Now, how can you tell when you have a mental problem or have a mental ill health creeping on? A simple factor like stress can cause problems with your health. One person said they tried an experiment in which they used a blood pressure machine while in traffic, and they were in a hurry. And they said that while they were there sitting down in the car waiting in heavy traffic, the blood pressure, they were under a lot of stress, the blood pressure started to rise just by sitting there apparently quietly. Where was that stress coming from? Traffic. They had an urgent appointment, but the worry about that traffic being alleviated quickly was the problem. Stress. You know, one of my psychologists years ago, one of our tutors, he was the leading one in Barbados at the time, said that one of the ways how you can tell if you've under a lot of stress is when you comb your hair and a lot of hair comes out on the comb. Now, don't draw the wrong conclusion about me now. This is more hereditary family, all right? Here today, gone tomorrow. All right, so our emotional well-being and our mental well-being, if it is not adequately dealt with, can contribute to illness, depression, and a variety of other things. And we don't know much, as I said, about taking care of our psychological or our mental health. We think, oh, that's not important. Your physical health is more important. So we spend more time taking care of our teeth, our body, our hair, than we do with our mind. And as I go around now, I don't see people doing much reading from a book. Everybody is, you name it, at the airport waiting, and everybody is onto their phone. Anybody reading a book was me. People don't read books nowadays. They're onto the phone, TikTok, and YouTube, and everything else. And some people into the bad news, listening to a lot of negative news and letting negative thoughts control the mind. All of those contribute to our ill health. So why is it that our physical health is more important to us than our psychological health? The reason is we attach more value to our body than to our mind. And that's the truth. We get more physical injuries than we do, more psychological injuries than we do physical injuries. I will show you in a minute that one of the number one factors for longevity, you will never guess what it is. Number one factor, but it has to do with relationship, getting along with. You think getting along with people who are difficult to get along with easy? It can set up your stress level. even bad communication, conflicts with people who don't understand what you're saying. Like at the airport, the air hostess, the flight attendant told the person, you are overweight, sir. And the fellow said, overweight? Who should be talking about overweight? You should be talking to me about overweight. You are so big. If you sit on that scale now, you'll go around 3 times. And the woman said, do you need a box? He said, oh, you want a box? Box me now. Meaning, on the jaw. A total misunderstanding of what was going on. And dealing with difficult, one slogan I read, said that working with idiots can kill. And that is true, you know. Working with people who are difficult to get along with. Anyhow, that's a separate. But we attach more importance to our physical health than our mental or psychological health. And there's time that we practice emotional hygiene. First of all, there are many people who don't even know what is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence has to do with being able to get along with difficult people, resolve conflicts, and how to take the stress out of a difficult situation. And much people they don't understand the emotions of others, so they make comments that affect people, which in turn affects themselves. We can be very critical when we are ready, you know that? Very critical of people in terms of their health, very critical in terms of their behavior and whatever, very critical, and that is what I'm talking about. You can treat a psychological wound. You can't treat a psychological wound if you don't even know your injury. A lot of people like to say, if you're feeling depressed, it's all in your head, just shake it off. Can you imagine saying to a person with an injured or broken leg, it's all in your leg, just shake it off? It doesn't work like that, all right? Things like failure, rejection, guilt, depression, or even loneliness are social and emotional rejection and real psychological wounds as well. And it can do a lot of damage. As a matter of fact, it can get worse if you ignore them. And it will impact on our lives in dramatic ways. So it's time that we close the gap between our physical and our emotional health. Physical and emotional. It's time that we make them more equal, like twins. As one writer says, there are wounds that never show on the body that are deeper and more hurtful than anything that bleeds. You know what I just said? You know, in studying some psychiatry, I learned from a textbook, because I had to do that when I was once attached to the psychiatric hospital. Not as a patient, but in a role of psychiatric social worker, where I had to facilitate 2 psychotherapy groups, one with the manic depressive or bipolar, and the other one with schizophrenic patients. We had a lot of different things, activities to do, and they were benefiting it. And at the end of the session, you know, one inmate said, you know, we like you a lot, you know, you are very much like one of us. I wonder how true that was, but anyhow. But the textbook tells us that parental conflicts in the home can influence a child to become a lifelong schizophrenic and cause children to be emotionally unstable and feel insecure for life. Researchers in different areas have also looked into some various aspects of well-being that are commonly considered, including some of the following. In economic well-being, notice I said economic well-being, spiritual development, emotional well-being, psychological well-being, life satisfaction. Are you satisfied with how your life is going, or you wish your life were different? You know, even when I ask young people, how many of you wish you were never born? Some of them raise their hands. How many of you wish you could change your parents? They actually raised their hands. How many of you wish you were born in a different country? Some people do that. They are not satisfied. They are not experiencing life satisfaction. And we can talk a lot, but environmental factors, social factors can influence or even our living condition. Even our healthy diet is critical to influencing behavior. I have a book called Your Behavior and Food, Food and Your Behavior, which was done with 172,000 inmates of prison. And the behavior changed when the diet was changed. So your diet can change your behavior. So often it's not what you are eating, it may be what's eating you. And many people are not able to use positive emotion, resilience, relationship ties, and so on to deal with their mental health. But there are a lot of factors that contribute to that. I will talk more about that one. Not just genes and personality, age and gender. Relationships is said to be number one. The number one factor, a longitudinal study showed, a number one factor of longevity is not exercise, it is not diet, it is not even weight loss, but it is our human relationships and our interaction with others. Knowing that we are loved, appreciated, understood, and even forgiven. Forgiveness itself is a therapy. And many people are struggling with guilt unknown to themselves. Because guilt is not something that shows up just like that. But guilt does tremendously affect people's psyche and can lead to problems like paranoia and others as well. One neighbor said that one person said that their neighbor's dog was barking on purpose to keep them awake. You know that person has a problem. So there are a lot of things that can trigger a psychotic episode, failing an exam, death of a loved one, and the list goes on. Simple things like those to us, but they can actually trigger a psychotic episode, a chemical imbalance in the brain, that is. So that there's a place for forgiveness therapy, learning to forgive people. And a person who is unable to forgive people are really drinking poison and hoping that the next person is going to die. So we have to learn to forgive. We have to learn to be patient. We have to learn how to deal with conflict. We have to know how to deal with difficult people. And the list can go on, which we'll talk more about just shortly. But the power of the longevity is in the mind. If you think, according to the spirit of prophecy, that eating an apple will affect you, apple is good and healthy, but if you think that eating an apple will affect you, it most certainly will. And I want to close with two illustrations. One psychiatrist in Tennessee, with whom I'm in contact, says that a lady came to him believing that a spell was cast on her and that she had lizards in her body. Now, the psychiatrist was a Christian psychiatrist, and he didn't believe that story, so he did a little experiment. He went out and collected a few lizards, green lizards, and then when he was doing the therapy session, he prayed over her. He gave her a chemical to drink, which was nauseating, and as she vomited, he took some of the lizards and threw them in the ground and said, look, the spell has been broken, the lizards are out. And after that, the woman had no more problems. I had a client, for example, who believed that he had HIV/AIDS, and he had all the symptoms of HIV/AIDS until he discovered he was not HIV positive. Then he went back to normal. You see the power of the mind over the body? I can talk a lot about that because that is where many people become, according to the spirit of prophecy, many physical illnesses are due to mental depression. And you don't even know sometimes some of the traits that you are manifesting that are signs of depression. We don't recognize it, for example, in adolescents, but furthermore, adults. How many people are positive, have a good sense of humor, know how to turn situations around. How many people are really happy with their experiences? And that's what health is all about. Being happy, being cheerful, know a good resilience, know how to bounce back well, how to treat difficult people, how to be emotionally intelligent, and the list goes on. But we need to understand the power of choice and the power of the mind as well. Sleeping problems can affect, you've heard that, insomnia, and the list can go on, apart from smoking and other things. Anyhow, all I want to say is that these three areas I'll be concentrating on are psychosomatic diseases, diseases that involve the mind over the body, psychoimmunology, where the impact of the mind has some influence over the immune system in terms of suppressing the immune system. You see the high content of sugar sometimes people use? That can lead people to catching a cold very easily. And psychodietetics, the impact of diet on your mind, where deficiencies in vitamin B1, B2, B3, B6, B12 can lead to mental disorders. And any diet that is deficient in calories, for example, can be deficient in many vitamins and minerals which your body needs and my body needs. So a simple thing like magnesium can help in lowering blood pressure. And we only know one magnesium, but there are a variety of magnesium. Magnesium oxide, magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate. And I bought one while I was in Canada the other day that contains 3 at least combined together. So there's the power of the mind over the body and being cheerful, being happy, and dealing with situations in the proper way. Most people, as I said, have difficulty getting along with other people and resolving conflict. And you don't see people who have mental disorders living too long. When the mind is gone, the body gives up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Saul. We are now about to open for questions. Write down your questions, please, on a little piece of paper. If you want to sign them up here, or if you want to raise your hand, and you will come to the mic or get close to a mic. But we have here a few questions that are already online. The first question is coming from a Kevin Cumberbatch. Good evening, everyone. Is there any way of reducing the prostate gland size? That's for you, Brother Douglin.
There is something called benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH. When the prostate tends to enlarge as a man gets older, it is not cancer, and therefore it is not going to pose the problem like prostate cancer would if not caught early. But benign prostatic enlargement blocks the water passage called the urethra and can give a man a lot of trouble with not being able to pass urine properly, getting up 10 times a night, and so on. Now, some people inherit a gene and they are more susceptible to benign enlargement, and some people inherit a gene and are more susceptible to cancer. Beyond genetics, we now understand that healthy diet, same point Elder Leacock made there, healthy diet is at the foundation of so many things, impacting positively on the mind and prostate. But there are certain herbs that can help prevent the prostate from being too swollen in terms of benign enlargement. One of the best known is called saw palmetto. Another big class now they're researching is a class called beta cytosterols. And products with beta cytosterols and saw palmetto help to prevent the enlargement. A diet low in saturated fat, diets rich in certain herbs and so on can also prevent it. If a man feels that he has a family history of an enlargement of the prostate, he should get that prostate checked when he's turning 50, 55, 60. If there's any enlargement, the doctor can give medication that can help it. And don't forget, benign enlargement is not the same thing as cancer, 2 different things altogether. And Sometimes they may be a genetic inheritance, but certain herbal extracts, beta-cytosterols and saw palmetto can help mitigate the enlargement as a man gets older.
Thank you, Brother Douglin. I know men don't like to ask questions, especially in the prophet area, because they feel a bit shamed. But one at this time must be bold now. I see we had a guy named Brother Daddy a couple of years back who went on social media and told everybody he had prostate cancer. And they opened up a GoFundMe, and lots of money was raised. He got his prostate taken out. He's back out. Pardon? Colon? All right, colon. All right. And he got fixed up and he was helped. The problem I'm making here is that a lot of people hide up their sickness. They don't want nobody to know. We as Belgians like to be very private with everything and privately die. Stop hiding up your sickness if you have an issue, because there might be somebody out there who can help you. Tell. Stop hiding. Some people, as Brother Douglin said, they dropped on dead. All along, the body was suffering with some cancer, but they didn't want to tell anybody because they feel too ashamed to talk it out. Tell. Don't be ashamed. Next question here. And if anybody wants to come to the mic, please come forward. I have about 4 questions here that are online, but we have Brother Glenroy Smith now.
Good evening, everyone. In 2000, I think it was around 2010, I was diagnosed with a swollen or enlarged prostate. And I decided that I would go the natural way. I had an uncle there that Brother Douglin knew very well. He was instrumental in telling me what to do. And he told me, you see that thing that I have there, which is gully root? He told me, use gully root. So another one of my cousins, he had the same problem. He went to Dr. Douglin. And Dr. Douglin was at the health clinic in St. George. And when he went, he came back and he decided he would take his own health in his hand as well. And he combined the gully root with lemongrass and soursop and pomegranate. And he used those things. And when he saw me, he said to me, Roy, I went to the doctor, and this is what the doctor told me. And then when I went back, he was much better. And he said to me, use this as you will use water. And I have been doing that now from 2010 until 2023. And I went to the doctor, and he gave me a letter, of course, sending me to another doctor. He said, me? So again, I took things in my hand. And I don't think that I am doing too badly at this time at age 65. So I can thank God for this message on health. It works, and the natural process may take a little longer, but certainly it works.
Brother Glenroy, let me add to you. I'm a gully root freak like you do. I will go and dig it out using a cutlass, tape. I want the root. I used to drink a lot of leaves. Brother Cliff, who used to go to church with us, I used to have a lot of back problems. But I found out later by Dr. Douglin that I had a lot of ruptured disc in my back. But nonetheless, he put me on for this thing called guinea hen weed. You know, guinea hen weed is the same as gully root. And I started to drink it. You ain't got to tell me something twice. You all know me very well, but you know, right when I open my mouth. I drink the most gully root in Barbados. I went up in the bush in St. George. I dug it out. It smelled real bad. And if you put it to your nose, it smelled like turpentine. But I boiled that, Brother Jeffrey. You still scared of it, but I'm scared. I boiled in a 4-liter pot full. And I drinking it every day for 2 weeks, and then I would take a break. And I could guarantee you, I get results like Brother Glenroy. But I can combine mine now with soursop leaf, pomegranate, and what else? And what? It was not turmeric in it. It was what? Lemongrass. Yes. All who want to play pretty want to know how much to drink. You ain't got the certain amount you're supposed to drink. Just drink it ain't gonna kill you. But we want to measure the amount. If the doctor getting your tablet, we don't know it's the right amount. You might be overdoing. Well, let me overdo, but you getting results. Now, here is the, I can forget it for my own brother and all, but that's no problem. Here's another question. Can we not attribute the late diagnosis of these cancers due to poor public health care?
I would actually say, as Steve mentioned before, a lot of people have symptoms and they keep them close to their chest. They don't want to come out. They don't even want to go to the doctor. They pretend that, oh, I'm all right, nothing is happening, especially in males. But they observe that there are changes in their bodies, but they really don't try to investigate the situation. They wait till it's very, very late. So it is a public health issue, but it's not a public health issue from the specialists or from the doctors. It's from the individuals. So if you see any changes in your body, whether it's bowel movement, you're feeling weak, whatever, you need to investigate and check it out. It might be that you can have some herbal treatments recommended that can enhance and prevent the situation, or you might have to have surgeries, whatever, but the important thing is for you to observe what is happening in your body. You're the best person to observe that, and then you seek medical help.
People are concerned about money when it comes to living healthy. For me, this is just me speaking. I spend all of my money to have food shop and on food. I do not save up for trips overseas. I don't need to leave Barbados to get rest, because you don't rest when you go overseas. Stop fooling yourself, that's nonsense. Spend the money on your health. Don't matter what the vitamins cost. You keep saying that Doug is a doctor, so he got money to buy them. And you can't afford it, but you can afford, because if you die and there's a turnout, they find $20,000 to bury you very fast. But you can't find money to buy a bottle of vitamins. Stop pretending. Now here's another question. What causes heart palpitations? This might be for Brother Douglin. Is it a big deal?
Well, heart palpitations mean that the person feels the heartbeat. It is faster than normal or irregular. Instead of beating lub-dub, 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 the first and second heart sound may be lub-dub, lub-dub, and that gives a sensation of something in the chest. A lot of palpitations may simply be due to fear or anxiety, or people use too much caffeine in coffee. Some people have what is called a mitral valve prolapse, and that can cause the heart to be a bit rapid, although it is not life-threatening. But if a person senses a persistent palpitation, then they should get it checked. They can get an electrocardiogram, an echo, and so on to make sure there is no structural abnormality in the heart, because high blood pressure, coronary artery disease, high cholesterol, those things can impact on the circulation to the heart muscle and cause abnormal electrical patterns, which can manifest as palpitations. Thyroid gland overactivity can start with the person feeling palpitations. So if a palpitation persists, seek medical attention to make sure it is not anything serious, like the coronary arteries being blocked, high blood pressure straining the heart, an overactive thyroid. Hormone changes can also affect that. Women who change sometimes postmenopausal may get palpitations, although they're usually not serious. So apart from anxiety and fear and overactive thyroid, coronary artery disease and high blood pressure can be a serious cause of feeling an abnormal heartbeat, which is what we call palpitations, and the person should get it checked out.
Any more persons to the mic? We have Brother Crony, and we have My brother from St. Lucie. You heard my brother from St. Lucie first. Crony, you second. Brother Crony, you second. Yeah.
Dr. Douglin, this is for educational purposes. For myself, I always associate anything benign to be cancerous. You said this evening that anything with deposit benign is not cancerous. Do I have the impression that benign can mean irreversible, or are you seeing that benign can mean reversible? It just means that it isn't cancerous?
Yeah, benign. There are two words here. Benign comes from the root word which means kind. Malignant comes from the root word which means leading to death. Anything that is malignant hypertension, a malignant tumor, left untreated will kill. A benign tumor, like a fibroid in a woman, benign enlargement of the prostate, they do not necessarily at all lead to death, and they are treatable and usually reversible.
Right.
So those are the two classifications. They're benign
and malignant. Right. To Sister Carmita, and I will always run this race. In public health, you say that authorities deal with the physical, the mental, and the social. And you, in your talk, made a reference to marijuana. And obviously, you make mention of the thought that it is now legal in Barbados, and that for medicinal purposes, yes. And you talk about some people with capacities to use and be fine, others use and are way out. I'm asking you if there is a use of marijuana which is good and can be great for the health of the nation. I have a scripture which Dr. Douglin read this morning, which is known through Adventism. Genesis 1:29, that God has given us the herbs with the seed, and it was given for meat, which is food. In your public health, I hear a lot of talking. In your public health, do you advocate the use of marijuana in a right way? I am not talking about smoking it. That is a no for me, absolutely. I am talking about based on the word, and some people who don't like the word. The science have shown that marijuana, not for the use of smoking, but for the use of eating the leaf just like you use in your salads. Do you advocate that, or you would not advocate that?
Actually, I would not advocate that. What I would advocate is the use of medical marijuana, where you take out the substance that is addictive. So that's what they actually do with the medical marijuana. But if you just pick a leaf and chew, it still has that addictive substance in it. And therefore, you can become addictive. You can either end up with a mental illness, or you can end up with other issues. As I said, you don't know from one individual to the other. But if you use the medical marijuana, it will be good for eye disease. It is good for a number of different cancers, etc., because they would have taken out the addictive substance from it and controlled it with the good substances that might be found in marijuana.
All right, Sister Douglin, I may be being informed a little more. But my understanding is, and I must confess, as I stand before the God of heaven, that I never, ever use it the way I would advocate it. I never smoked it, none of the sort. So this is my information, and this goes with the science that has proven it, that it does not affect you like how it affects the man who take it and smoke it if you eat it just so. Not even to boil it. No, the guys that use it say, if you even boil it, you get a high. But if you don't boil it, you don't get no high. So if you are advocating medicinal marijuana, therein comes the word of God that says every herb, not some herb, every herb is good.
But Brother Willings, you have to realize that there are poisonous herbs out there. So if you take up those poisonous herbs and use them, the terms are still there. Every herb is good, but then you would be poisoned if you use a poisonous herb.
Douglin, I'm using marijuana. I am dealing with marijuana. I ain't dealing with the other ones. I'm talking about the use of marijuana. I'm talking about the use of marijuana. What is the science saying about eating it as in your salads?
Okay, as I said to you, the science is saying that the medicinal marijuana will be good for treating certain ailments. They're saying that if you just take up marijuana and use it and different quantities are being used, then it depends on you as an individual that you can have side effects. That's what the science is saying. All right? So that's my last comment on that.
I can make a last comment too. Sister Douglin, when God gave Adam the marijuana tree to use, was it medicinal marijuana or just marijuana as you and I know it?
All right, there's a question for Sister Carmela to answer at a later date. She will have to do her research into that. Let's go to Brother Crony quickly, because we have about 3 questions here in the chat that people need to answer, and then we go back to the church group.
Just before we move past the subject of prostate health, I've heard of something called prostatitis. I just want to ask Dr. Douglin, is that essentially just another term for an enlarged prostate, or is it something completely different? If it is different, how so? Prostatitis.
Prostatitis is inflammation of the prostate gland, usually caused by a bacterial infection. It can cause pain in the perineal area, can cause burning in the urination, and when the doctor examines the prostate, it's very painful, and it has to be treated with antibiotics, usually for 6 weeks. Most cases of prostatitis, infection in the prostate gland, may push up the PSA. I remember once seeing a patient 20 years ago with a PSA of 100, so it had us all panicking. And it turned out to be, he was feeling feverish and so on. We said, you know something, this might be an infection in the prostate gland. He was treated with antibiotics for 6 weeks, but by week 2, his PSA was back down to 1, fever gone. It was an acute bacterial infection of the prostate gland. That's prostatitis, completely different from benign enlargement, completely different from cancer. But it's one of the things that can push up the PSA and make a man afraid.
We have here a question from online before Brother Williams or anybody else can back up. Brother Glenroy. This one is one for Sister Atwell. How effective are these principles in treating depression and other mental health challenges, the principles we talked about just now? What plans do you have to help clients who may seek treatment but face financial challenges?
So the first question has to do with depression. When someone has depression, it depends on the level of depression and what's causing the depression. So if it's a chemical imbalance, if it's stress, if it's something like that, then sure, we can use herbs and we can help them that way. Now, if it's something more with mental states, it is better to refer them out. Remember that first principle where you have do no harm? If you're not sure, it is best to refer them to someone who can help them in that regard. The other question was, what plans do I have to help clients who may but have financial challenges? That is something that I would do on a one-to-one basis. Now, as a physician, it is always important to help the individual. That's the most important thing. If someone has financial challenges but need my help, they need to just speak with me personally. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're here to do. Now, if I start a practice here, of course, you can't run your practice without having money. Remember, a guy used to say, money is right up there with oxygen. We need it. But however, the important thing is helping the individual, and that's what I'm about. So if someone has financial challenges but need help, just speak with a practitioner.
This question is for Brother Saul, and then we'll go back to the congregation. How can the church incorporate ideas and resources to educate the public about suicide prevention and domestic violence during our open-air meetings? How can the church incorporate ideas and resources to educate the public about suicide prevention and domestic violence even during our open-air meetings?
Yes, you will have to have a slot during the open-air meetings for mental health presentation, but it would be good if literature can be followed up. A nice track or literature on mental health challenges and solutions, where strategies are given in terms of lifestyle changes, changes in diet, and so on. But that's for educational purposes. Outside of that, it would have to be one-on-one. So that organize activities, incorporating presentation, as well as specific, if anyone has any specific challenges that they may need, individual counseling, and also literature that addresses areas of mental health. That's my recommendation.
And the last question before we go back to the congregation, Brother Douglin, for you. How effective is L-arginine in controlling blood pressure?
Well, high blood pressure is not necessarily a straightforward issue. A person may have inherited a gene and a genetic susceptibility for high blood pressure. You know, there's some people who carry a low blood pressure wherever they do, and there are some people who carry a high blood pressure wherever they don't do. Genetic impact. A person with high blood pressure needs to understand that high blood pressure must be controlled. Whether you're following a natural line with herbs and so on, or if that is not getting it done, medication, high blood pressure is not to be skylarked with. It eventually will damage the kidneys, cause stroke, heart attack, heart failure, or right off the circulation of the feet. And high blood pressure is the most common cardiovascular disease in the world and is a big killer. The Americans call it a silent killer because you don't know that you have high blood pressure unless you get it checked. You hear Beijing saying, I know my pressure good because my head feel all right. That's a myth. You can only know what your blood pressure is if you get it checked. Okay. Now, this question about arginine, of course, there's a product called pro-arginine, which is arginine and citrulline. Now, let me just mention this. As we get older, the inner lining of our arteries does not produce as much nitric oxide as it should. Now, nitric oxide is the natural artery relaxer put there by the Creator. The inner lining of the arteries, we call it the endothelium, the endothelial cells. They can make nitric oxide using arginine and citrulline from our own protein intake. But as you get older, this nitric oxide production falls. So there's this product which gives arginine and citrulline, and it helps to restore the nitric oxide level. And in some people, it definitely helps with their high blood pressure. Not all. The amino acid citrulline is actually better than arginine itself in helping to lower blood pressure. I'm dealing right now with a brother who has very high blood pressure issues, and he's attending the cardiologist, and they have him on all sorts of medication. It's still giving him some trouble, and we're using some herbs and so on. I told him to get the amino acid citrulline and add it. And when he takes the amino acid citrulline, along with the other medications, the blood pressure is much more manageable. Citrulline, like arginine, is used by the endothelial cells to make nitric oxide. Of course, drinking more water, eating the high water content vegetables, cucumber and celery and parsley and the cruciferous vegetables, eating a lot of salads, keeping the salt moderate, exercising, getting adequate rest, drinking more water. Those simple things can help to lower the blood pressure. Adding arginine and citrulline can certainly help in some people, but some people may need stronger medications, even in the herbal line. Grapeseed extract, pine bark extract can help. And some people, the blood pressure is so difficult, they may definitely need antihypertensive medications like ACE inhibitors, ARBs, amlodipine, to prevent them from getting blood pressure complications, because sooner or later, you see the kidney function declining. After a few years, high blood pressure damages the kidney, and then go into chronic kidney disease stage 1, 2, 3, and you're going downhill. You don't want that. So the question is about arginine, and arginine and citrulline will certainly help, especially in some people, but it's an overall approach to get that blood pressure down. Thank you.
Well, Douglin, you're absolutely correct. Here's a little tip I'm going to give you. As I tell you, I'm always using myself as a guinea pig just like him. Stop throwing away your watermelon skin. You like to throw them in the garbage too fast. Wash them, cut them up, put them in the blender, blend them, and drink that green juice without adding sugar. Don't mean the foolish, but you adding sugar to it. You're doing junk. That is a lot of citrulline right there in front of your face. And all those cheap people who say that they can't afford to buy anything, drink the watermelon skin. It will give you more citrulline than any tablet or capsule you can ever buy from the food shop.
That's right.
So all this foolishness you all talking about one, you ain't got no money and have food too expensive. Let me tell you something. It is very cheap to live healthy. Very, very cheap. I do not eat all this processed food you're eating. Ask my wife every single day. It is just ground provisions. Why change something that's working if it's working? But y'all want to eat exotic food. Oh, I'm feeling eating this today. I want macaroni, but I want the ones that twist. I want the ones that straight. I want the ones that this shape. I want the different one with this color. You want variety. Variety is rubbish. When I was home living, my mother had a menu. Sundays rice and peas, Mondays cuckoo, Wednesdays soup, Thursdays this. And if you ain't want none that day, you starve, that's all. But y'all giving these children and giving yourself so much variety. Today I feel like eating this, so you might change. I eat steamed food every single day. Yam, sweet potatoes, lettuce, breadfruit, green banana, dashing. First stop, that is my food. If you are eating real food, medicine is of no use to you. You're wasting time taking the medicine because there's no need. Sorry, medicine is of no need. But when you're eating bad, you have to get medication for it. Somebody had a question out here. Who it was? Brother Gayroy. You pass on that. All right. My brother over here. Yes, please. You can come. Right here. My good elder. Come, stand, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. This one is for Dr. Douglin. I'm asking you now, how would you treat gangrene of the foot?
Well, gangrene of, you finished?
No. Are there any natural remedies to do this? That's my question.
Well, you should understand that gangrene starts with poor circulation in those feet, the arteries being narrowed and blocked. And the most common cause of the arteries in the foot being narrowed and blocked are 1, diabetes mellitus, 2, cigarette smoking, 3, a very high cholesterol level, 4, high blood pressure, and then in extreme aging, some people, the arteries age and shut down. I knew a lady who lived to 96 down in Spikestown, but when she reached 90, aging closed down the arteries and she had to lose both feet. Therefore, it is important to keep those arteries open, exercise, healthy diet, if there's preventing diabetes, preventing high blood pressure, or controlling them. A lot of diabetics don't pay any attention to their blood sugar. They ignore dietary guidelines, eat as they like, and all that time the sugar is gradually shutting down the arteries in their feet. And when the arteries are shut down, there's no blood supply to the toes, those tissues will die, and then germs will go in and hold effect. And when the germs go in those dead tissues, there's nothing the doctor can do but cut it off. As Jesus said, if your foot offends you, cut it off to prevent death from the rest of the body being gangrenous. Because if that sepsis from the dead foot gets into the bloodstream, it's all over. So if people wait late with poor circulation and they get gangrene, the foot gone. It is before it reaches that stage that you must open back up those arteries. And a healthy diet, things like grapeseed extract, pine bark extract, the citrulline, watermelon, and so on. And of course, Brother Stephen mentioned to you something else in the watermelon, white, that he loves to talk about. But opening up those arteries is so important. Hence, the preventive lifestyle, exercise, and so on. And if a person is diabetic or hypertensive, dealing with control rather than waiting until those arteries are blocked, when really and truly it is going to be trouble. I remember a gentleman came to me years ago and told me, Dr. Douglin, my foot is in danger. The doctor told me I'm heading towards losing this foot. If nothing is done, he told me I don't want my foot to be cut off. I told him he has to change his diet and his lifestyle. I told him don't cheat. Strict diet, get that sugar right down, that blood pressure right down. Along with the medication he was getting from the specialist, I gave him some natural things. And I said, natural things don't work fast, they take time, but they're getting at the root of the problem. And in 3 months, when he went back to the cardiologist and checked him, the cardiologist said, well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because these feet are improving. And he didn't have to get the foot cut off, but that was relatively early. It was late, but still early. If you wait to the point where gangrene sets in and it's black and blue and infection is there, you're gone. Okay, brother? Okay.
To what you asked about the gangrene, one of the things to do, apart from there is something called a microcirculation diet that a few things. I have it written out somewhere, but I'll pass it on. Okay. But that helps a lot. The other thing is when it begins to get to that stage, do the poultice. Start poultice, apart from all the dietary changes. Do the charcoal poultice and use in it, along with the flaxseed or psyllium husk that will keep it that kind of soft gel. Also use wheatgrass, the powdered wheatgrass, if you have it. Mix it in with the poultice, with the charcoal and the flax or the psyllium, and use that every night on the legs.
All right, we go on to another question. All right, sis, as soon as I will call you right after this question here because this person was waiting for a while. This goes to any of the health persons. How instrumental to the increase of cancers is processed food like Big Franks and Super Links responsible for? This is coming from a young brother in the church.
Well, okay. Let me put it this way. It is best for us to eat whole food whole. As Brother Steve tell you, your sweet potato, you see that yellow flesh, red, orange flesh sweet potato? The Americans call that superfood. We move from it to go and eat plastic food, macaroni, this and the next and the third. And the good old whole food whole, your peas and beans, grown provisions, your vegetables, eating that whole food whole is best. Now, some people like the Big Franks and the prime steak and so on. I do not condemn them. I prefer my beans and peas and so on. And some people say they use them as a transition stage, but they never get off. The thing with the Big Franks and the prime steak and so on, though, is that in processing them, they usually use too much salt. And sometimes they use unhealthy oils like corn oil and so on. So it is still best eating your peas and beans and so on, rather than even processed vegetarian food, okay? And any processed food tends to contribute, unhealthy processing tends to contribute towards inflammation. There's good processing, don't get me wrong. For example, if you cook tomatoes and grind them to make tomato paste, you're getting a very healthy input of lycopene, which is powerful for the body. So that's healthy processing. And you can, what I usually do is open a small can of tomato paste, pour in some olive oil in it, stir it around, and eat it. That's good processing. But the various vegetarian processed foods, you have to watch the salt and the fat, and it is still better eating your whole food whole. Now, let's be practical. Some children, we know most children are picky, and if you're trying to get them off certain things, you may have to use certain things as a transition, and as they mature, they can understand. So we can't come down with a hard and fast rule, but I'm saying that it is best to eat whole natural food whole. And those things may have a place in transition, but watch the salt and the fat and the processing.
Thank you, Brother Douglin. Sister, you can come to the microphone, but as you're coming, let me just say this. If you're suffering from poor circulation, especially in the lower part of the limbs, make a salve of cayenne pepper and oil and massage your feet with it. And if it's really poor, like in the lower part of the, around the legs and such like, you can bandage it at night. And it increases circulation in those limbs that were once seemingly dying. Pardon? Yeah, rubbing the essential oils with the cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper will not burn a skin that is intact. So you don't have to be afraid of saying, it can burn me. Try it. It actually works. My knee was swollen. I had to get 70 cc's of that inflammatory liquid drawn off my knee. You know what we're talking about, Brother Douglin, right? It looked like some yellow fruity, you know? But it's slimy. I got the video here, I'm going to show you all, but I can show you to know another thing, right? And twice I had to get done within the last 4 years. I haven't got it done since. You know what I did? I upped the turmeric, ginger, and cayenne pepper. I started doing 240 bodyweight squats on mornings while taking a 3.2 kilometer walk. And my knee has not swollen up in more than a year. You have to be proactive. Get out there and start talking about the rain falling, and you ain't able to get out of bed, or you ain't sleep late, or you got to get your Bible study first, and by the time Bible study done, it's too late to walk because you find hard. Stop finding excuses. Get out there and exercise, and you will get results. I'm not here to pacify you. I'm not here to tell you about the easy way. It takes hard work. Get out there and do the results.
Amen.
Go ahead, sis.
I want to know how beneficial is probiotics to digestive health.
Probiotics are usually some sort of microorganism that they use to improve gut health. So basically what they're doing with a probiotic is giving you like lactobacillus or bifidobacter. So they're providing by a pill or powder the probiotics that you might need in your gut. Now, like every supplement that I mentioned in the beginning, not every supplement is equal. So you have to do your due diligence to figure out if what you're getting is what it says in the bottle. Okay? And some people go and they take maybe 30,000, 50, 60, high numbers. You don't really need that many, as long as you have good strains and you're eating healthy and you're getting rest and so on, the probiotics will work. But apart from probiotics, you also need to get a good prebiotic, which means you have to have an environment that when you take those probiotics, that the organisms will grow. So it has to be fed. And that is fiber. Okay? So it is not only taking the probiotic. Now, I don't know if they have the test here, but it's a good idea at least once to get your gut health, to get your, to do a gut test to see what see what the kind of diversity you have in your gut. Now, has anyone done a test like that here? Or know that there's a test here for that? There's not? Okay. But there are tests that you can do to make sure at least once you should be able to check to see what organisms you have in your gut. And of course, if you find that, you go by symptoms. Bloating, a lot of flatulence when you eat and stuff like that will tell you, gut pain will let you know if you have issues with the gut. But probiotics are okay. Now, like I said, quality is important. You need to be able to have a prebiotic that feeds them, or make sure that you're eating things to feed them. Because what's the point of taking it in and you're not producing the growth that you need?
My good sister, I have found out that that same sauerkraut is loaded with lots of probiotics. Just one spoonful is the equivalent of taking the entire bottle of probiotics you buy from your food shop. It is in the billion range. So that's why when they had that big bottle of sauerkraut that I had home, I wouldn't let nobody touch it. I let my wife get a taste, but she ain't like, it's the women in the taste buds. I ate all myself. And I find out that it gave me results that I can't ever tell when I'm on air. Y'all stand there. We have 3 hands here. My brother here at the front, Brother Roger, and then over on this. Brother Haynes? Oh, let the lady come into the mic first, go. Yes. My lovely friend. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, Steve. Good evening, everybody. I have something that is troubling me. I custom using coconut oil to actually fry with, just for frying purposes. But recently, I was watching 3ABN, and a health nugget came over, and they are saying that you should not use coconut oil. You shouldn't even put it in your mouth. So my question this evening, maybe Dr. Douglin can help me, is what would be the best oils that you can use for frying your stuff? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sister. Thank you for your question. Well, to be honest with you, sister, we really shouldn't fry. Now, ladies like frying. However, I tell my wife about frying, she will fry. We have a brother who devised a technique for frying using a thin layer of water. Anyhow, people talk about air fryers now, but I see air fryer is now coming up under some controversy, but it is better than oil. Now, if you're going to fry, the best oil to fry in would be grapeseed oil. It resists temperature change to its chemistry. Olive oil, which is the best oil to use overall, is best used cold. Now, the thing with coconut oil is that you hear some experts saying that coconut oil, extra virgin, can help the brain. We do know that coconut oil is medium chain saturated, and it can help to transport and is a good transport oil. But the problem is this. If a person has a genetic tendency in the liver to high cholesterol, the medium chain fatty acids in coconut oil, now coconut oil does not contain cholesterol, no plant product contains cholesterol, but the medium chain saturated fats in coconut oil can stimulate the liver to push the cholesterol up in certain people with a genetic problem. And therefore, some experts caution on that. Other experts say if you don't have that problem, it may be good for the brain. So the jury is still out there. Okay, you have experts on both sides. You hear people saying about extra virgin coconut oil helping people with Alzheimer's and so on. Others say you need double-blind trials to prove it. Now, I can't have a problem with it because coconut oil gives me migraine headache, so I can't use it. So I can eat the soft coconut jelly, but I can't use coconut oil. If I look at it too hard, I'll get a migraine. But the coconut oil, extra virgin, is claimed by some people to be good for the brain. We know it can cause the cholesterol to go up in people who are genetically predisposed to high cholesterol, and some experts don't like it at all. Others say it may be useful for the brain, so that you have that controversy in the scientific world. It is best to avoid frying, or if you're going to fry, use grapeseed oil or avocado oil. Some experts say that frying with extra virgin olive oil, once you're not carrying the temperature too high, may be passable as well. It's best to steam or boil, but I know the ladies like frying.
We go to the question down here in the back here.
I know you spoke, any one of the panelists spoke briefly on sleep, and we know that poor sleep is detrimental to health. So could anyone share how important sleep is and sleeping? I mean, you like the circadian rhythm, knowing the circadian rhythm and following good, healthy sleep.
Others can contribute here, but sleeping, 7 hours sleep at night is very important for everybody. Young children even sleep longer. Old people, as they get older, can come down to 6, but 7 hours of sleep is important. And it's important to get some of that sleep before midnight, because every hour before midnight is worth 2 after. So sleep is very good, because if you're lacking sleep, it can push up your blood pressure, injure your immune system, make you more prone to diabetes, make you more prone to a whole set of disorders. Sleep is very important, and they're linking sleep now with morning exercise or evening exercise and sunlight. Sunlight is not only good for making vitamin D in the skin, they're now showing that sunlight has other fantastic properties, also to do with the pineal gland and melatonin and helping you sleep. And sleep is very important, and is to be connected with getting sunlight and with exercise. But those who don't get enough sleep are going to be in trouble sooner or later. So thank you for raising that, sister. Adequate sleep at night is an important health principle.
Brother Saul,
it is important to sleep. But the position of sleeping is also important. It is recommended that you sleep on your right side rather than your left because of drainage issues within the glands. Some people sleep on their back, some sleep on their left side, but you can do the research yourself to see that it does contribute to bad sleep as well. And then also, some people do not get into the sleep enough to really get rest. There's shortwave sleep. There's REM, that is rapid eye movement sleep, which is the deep sleep, in which the brain begins to purge itself of unnecessary information that was put in and to retain information that is important. So sleep is important, very, very important, so that you don't wake up sluggish in the morning, needing rest after resting a full night. And then also, some people have difficulty sleeping, insomnia and other. I recommend a nice exercise the night with some deep breathing and also some chamomile tea or chamomile tea, whichever you call it. And it will knock you out. So sleep is important for those who may, rather than taking sleeping pills and then pet pills to wake yourself up. People do all kinds of things in order to get that sleep. But sleep should be something that is natural. And the Bible says the sleep of the laboring man is sweet, whether he eateth much or little. That's the wise man Solomon saying.
Brother Sol, I got a question to ask there. If I sleep on the right side, right, that may go back my wife.
It all depends on which side you sleep, Brother Steve. It depends on the side that you sleep. If you sleep in the same position, I had to change my way of sleeping. I used to sleep on the left side, but I realized I had certain problems coming. And then I slept on the right side. I never had those problems.
Everything went right.
So it does make a difference, all right? So change your posture, sleeping posture.
I see Sister Mary is coming to give a question.
Amen.
Wait, hold on.
Good evening.
Shh, everybody be quiet, please.
I'm glad the sister brought up about sleep because I was getting some issues with sleeping. But I would like Brother Douglin to explain to my husband, Steve, how important it is to have a very dark room in order for me to get a good sleep.
Oh, I'm glad you say so, because I know I don't trouble you. So anyhow, you tell she about this dark room, because I like to pull open all the curtains, allow as much cold wind to come in, because I like to sleep in a very cool room. She will pull the curtains together, the wind is circulating in the bedroom, so I feel hot and miserable. So she likes to pull the curtains to the room as dark as possible. So that's why on cruises and we in an inside cabin and the room pitch black, she can sleep good. But I ain't on a cruise at home. So the room clear. Well, Brother Sol is telling you to wear a mask, Mary. Anyhow, Brother Doug, you answer the question. Yeah. After Brother Doug has spoken, Brother Jeffrey Cabin will be next.
Sister Mary, I better discuss that with you and your husband after. But Steve is saying that he likes the cold. I like cold wind. I'm very uncomfortable at night if it is hot. So, but I open the window for cold wind to come in, but no light comes in. It's just cold wind. You have lights around your ear?
Because right in front of my house is a
street light.
Yes.
Oh, you have to turn off the street light then.
Where's your man? Oh, my brother here. Brother Jeffrey, just hold a second, sir. This younger man here wants to speak. Yes, sir.
My question, I know in Barbados there's a problem with obesity. People are struggling to lose weight. For me, is there a natural way, some natural way to gain weight? Because I would love to gain at least 5-7 pounds.
Well, before Sister Atwell speaks, I would say that I don't see any need for you to gain 7 pounds. Your body mass index looks to me like around 22, and they say that's the body mass index of centenarians. So you're in good shape. It's a bit low. Somebody complain? Anybody's complaining? Is your wife complaining? You're complaining? Okay, Sister Atwell. Let's go.
I don't know if you've ever read, a lot of people get fooled by slimness. There's a new research that shows you can be slim outside and fat on the inside. Or fat on the inside, on the outside, and slim on the inside. So it really has a lot to do with the built-up of fat inside and not so much the slimness on the outside, which is true that you need both, as it were. So I would encourage, as far as possible, exercise does help to reduce cholesterol, blood sugar, blood pressure, and everything else, and the added benefit is weight loss.
I'll tell you this, though, as a personal trainer, and people that are preparing for competition, they slim down. You know what they do? They use protein powder and stuff that has no sugar. If you want to bulk up, you use protein powders that are loaded with sugar, and you're going to pack on mass easily. The bigger you are, the sweeter you are. I don't make no bones about it. Any woman, the more size she has, she's putting in far more calories than she is burning, or he is putting in far more calories than he is burning. So my brother, right now, you are in a calorie deficit. So that means that your weight either stays the same or you're losing weight. In order for you to change that, you have to increase your caloric intake, whether you use it by ground provisions or by pasta or by simply using sweet things. You have to make the choice. But either of the three can raise it, but sugar will raise it the fastest. So if you start eating a lot of pork, if you start doing a lot of pork eating, as my sister would call it, if you start at Sheffield, Kentucky, you gain about 20 pounds in a hurry. For me, when they wanted to move from 265 to 218, I just cut out all flour products and sugar products. And my weight went right down, and my belly disappeared. And for the first time in about 20 years, I can see my abs again. I am not going to fool you. There was no gradual way to do it. If you want to get slim, cut out the sugar. There's no need for it. We already get so much sugar in so much things that we eat that it is unnecessary to use added sugar in anything at all. But my brother now, if you want to gain weight and you want to do it in a healthy way, start using a lot of ground provisions, and you will gain weight in a healthy manner. Oh, and sleep too. You got to get sleep. Yes, Brother Jeffrey.
Good evening. I want to speak to the issue of coconut oil. I happen to have been in the ministry when this controversy firstly arose. It was the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Commerce. And at that time, there was a lot of coconut oil consumption. A lot of it was exported to the industrialized countries. Then the industrialized countries started producing in mass, olive oil, etc. And to my mind, what they wanted to do was to cut back on the intake of the exportation of coconut oil from these OECS countries and the other states out of the OECS into these industrialized countries, and they've sought to promote their olive oil, etc. That, to me, was an economic problem and not, to my mind, a nutritional one. Why? The OECS and other states got together and asked Harvard University to undertake a study in the usage of coconut oil and its benefits or disadvantages for its consumption. And it was proven that the coconut oil usage was just as good or better than the olive oil. So that, to my mind, was the economic warfare going on with the coconut oil. Having said that, I want to, just as I am standing, make mention of something. Recently, there was mention of a lot of young people dropping dead, athletes at that. And that question was asked here to you by Brother Merton and Brother Elliott. And recently, I came across some information which stated that the reason why these athletes were dropping dead at such a young age was the absence of selenium in their bodies. And I think you should make a little give a little statement on the uses of selenium and its benefits. Another thing, too, recently they were saying that these young people were dying in 2021, and they were saying, some people were saying that it was as a result of COVID. My information, which I happened to come across again, said that it was not as a result of COVID, because in 2022, young people were still dying, and it was not in any way connected to COVID or any such thing. Could you comment, Brother Elliott, on the selenium problem, as it were? Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Brother Kelman. Selenium is a trace mineral that is very important. It is part of an intracellular antioxidant complex called glutathione peroxidase. Glutathione is made up of 3 amino acids, glycine, glutamic acid, and cysteine. The enzyme is a peroxidase enzyme, and it needs selenium. It is the most important antioxidant system in every organ, especially liver, heart, and so on, to keep away free radicals from damaging the organs. Now, the heart is beating all the time when you are sleeping and you're cooling out, as you say. Your heart still has to work. So the heart needs a good level of protection against free radicals interfering with the mitochondria in the heart muscle. The mitochondria, the factories inside the cell. For a long time, we knew that selenium deficiency can cause myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle. And therefore, selenium is a very important trace mineral. Now, if you're eating fruits and vegetables and pumpkin seeds like Steve, and I like to eat, we love pumpkin seeds, right, Steve? And walnuts and so on, you're going to get your selenium in the seeds and vegetables and so on. What is happening nowadays is this, Brother Jeffrey Kelman. A lot of these athletes eat the refined processed foods. Let me give you an example. In the old time days, all cricketers like Wes Hall and Charlie Griffith eat sweet potato and bowl the whole day in Australia. These fellas now, the moment they come off the field, they got a hamstring, eating macaroni pie, and they're gone, the whole team gone. So when these athletes are eating refined processed foods and not getting good, wholesome, natural food, magnesium, as Brother Leacock mentioned, and selenium, and a lot of these trace minerals will drop. Magnesium is important, selenium is important. You can get them in your fruits and vegetables, grains and nuts and seeds. But when these young people are not getting them and go and do high-speed running on the football field, and you see how hard they push, then the heart, at that level of exertion, may not have the antioxidant protection, and you can get sudden cardiac deaths. And selenium is one of the factors, not the only one, that may be involved. So make sure you get enough selenium. You can take a supplement of 200 micrograms, but all the seeds and grains contain these trace minerals. Pumpkin is a very good source of trace minerals, and don't peel it. Cook the pumpkin in the skin. And the sweet potato in the skin, I call them things in the skin. Even when I'm making conkeys, I grate the pumpkin with the skin. The trace mineral level beneath the layer of skin is rich in selenium and zinc and those important minerals.
I want you all to listen carefully because we have about 15 minutes left, no more, we've been told. I just want to ask these questions that are online. I'm going to ask all of them at one time, and then the necessary persons can answer them. The first one is, how long to drink the watermelon water? How long do I keep it in the fridge? That one was basically for me. I only do watermelon skin as I am going to use it in that day. It quickly goes off within about 2 days. So it don't make sense putting it down in the fridge unless you're going to freeze it. And I don't like to freeze things in plastic because there's another danger. We like a lot of plastic things. Keep away from storing things in plastic. Store them in glass. All right? And that's why rather than having the problem of, as Brother Sally, they're saying the glass can break if you freeze it. Don't drink it unless you're doing it. Do it first. Drink it there one time. I take mine to the gym with me. Rather than using a lot of these sports drinks, I drink it. The women connect the face that you're doing a lot of foolishness. I drink it myself. Before I start the train, I take a nice teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and I drink that behind it, and I train like a horse. But everybody gets connected to faith. That's what I do. It's strange, but I will stay strange. All right. Here's another question for you. Apart from anecdotal or word of mouth bush remedies, are there any studies being done at the regional universities to identify some herbs and their proven uses? This will go to you, Sister Atwell, I do know, but I know in Jamaica they're doing, what do you call it now?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Our senior lecturer here in pharmacology at the university, Dr. Damien Cohol, friend of mine, his PhD is in ethnopharmacology. So he did his PhD in Jamaica, looking at the Jamaica fauna and the Jamaica flora and all the Jamaican plants. And Jamaica is a big island, has a lot of herbs that the people specialize in. And actually, Dr. Lowe at University of the West Indies and Dr. Henry and Dr. Damien Cohol, they did some research there, and they have systematized a lot of the plants in terms of how to use them and so on. So although there is empirical evidence, some people still like the standard research, which is all right, but remember that if a bush, for example, is not poison. Take, for example, Brother Glenroy Smith mentioned pomegranate tree leaves. Sister Nurse, who's just gone home, always used to say, when a fruit... Sister Nurse is still there? Oh, sorry, Sister Nurse. Sorry. Go. Every fruit tree that is bearing a fruit, the leaf is good, pear leaf. The notion that the mango leaf is packed with antioxidants. You can use those leaves and boil teas. And you don't have to worry with the amount. You're not going to use a whole mango tree. You use a few leaves and boil it, and you get what you need to help you. So we don't have to research everything, although what we can research is good. But we came along. I had an uncle that knew every herb in St. Peter. And this is not a joke. My uncle used to know every herb and tell people what to use. And my uncle got sick, and I phoned my brother and said, Carlos, how come Uncle Hensley? He said, Uncle Hensley tell everybody what to use, but he don't use them. So if you know something as good as Brother Steve says, pomegranate leaves, very good. As a matter of fact, people talk about eating a whole cow. You can eat a whole pomegranate tree. The fruit, the flower, and the leaf, packed with antioxidants. Just so Babylon, eat a whole pig, eat a whole tree. But the pear leaf and breadfruit leaf, in Jamaica, they've done research on breadfruit leaf. They've done research on mauby bark, don't worry about any sugar, and coconut water, lowering blood pressure. So research is being done, whoever asked that question, at the regional universities is not widespread, but on certain areas to verify what some of the ancients have been coming along using.
You heard what he just said? Stop waiting for research to come out. Use the bush. It works. I'll tell you this. When I make for my gully root, Brother Glenn, right now, the way like gully roots about too. You know, and he know what he like it too. And you heard about something in Guyana called Coppadula? Anybody ever heard about that? Brother Christian, now my brother Leeson, you never heard about Coppadula in Guyana? Lord have mercy upon you, boy. No one will come out of Barbados. Anyhow, but Coppadula is a very good thing. You mix it with the gully root, and it's even more effective for the man's prostate gland. But then you will find out it already growing here in Barbados. You know what they call it? Granny backbone. You ever hear about that? Yeah. First class herb. And this man in St. George got it growing. He said he just eating leaves. But when I do my research, the root even better. So I even dig up some of the man root and go home and boil it and mix it with the gully root and I drinking it. I ain't shame. If you shame, I'm sorry for you.
I want some.
You want some? No problem. I promise to share. Here's another question. I'm just going through these 3 questions and then we can close. Good evening. Is the local Roberts cooking oil good for you? It claims that the oil has no trans fat and it's heart healthy. That's one. Hold a minute. Good evening. Listening from St. Lucia, what natural medicine can I take for inflammation and pain caused by it? Somebody's getting a lot of pain. Here's another one. What can I do at age 23 for sleeping problems at night? And here's another one. What is your view on intermittent fasting over a long period? And will it cause prediabetes if done for a long period? Those are 3 questions, or 4. Y'all can answer them. You can remember them?
Well, the lady from St. Lucia, I think is a lady, who is listening from St. Lucia and is asking about inflammation. The anti-inflammatory herbs, turmeric is number 1. Ginger is up there. Cayenne is up there. Clove, a pure diet. One of our sisters, I don't know if she's gone home, but she couldn't come to church for a couple of Sabbaths because of some knee pain. And I told her to get, because she couldn't get the amount of turmeric, so I told her to get a product that is on sale here at Price Mart called liposomal fermented turmeric with about 6 other herbs in it: ginger, black pepper, milk thistle, ashwagandha, everything. And I told her to take 2 a day, she can even double up. And she was back at church last week and today, and she told me there is progressive improvement. So the anti-inflammatory herbs, I can always get in contact with this sister from St. Lucia. Turmeric comes in at number 1. Ginger is also there. Pine bark extract, powerfully anti-inflammatory. So there are a lot of herbs that are anti-inflammatory if we go in our garden. The oregano is powerfully anti-inflammatory as a spice. And when that starts to go, it doesn't stop. You can use it in your seasonings. I put it in my morning smoothies. Can't put a lot, because if we put a lot, somebody will complain that too bitter. You know how it is with the ladies. So I put a certain amount. But these herbs are anti-inflammatory. So and Brother Steve has been talking about them. All the things you've been using, they are anti-inflammatory. The other question is about intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting isn't for everybody, but it certainly helps. We have in the Spirit of Prophecy, where the Spirit of Prophecy says when you're an adult, you can sustain yourself on 2 meals. And even there are some people now who are on 1 meal a day, and they manage very well, and they keep very slim. However, some people can't manage any fasting at all. One of the sisters, a lady who walks with us on mornings, she heard me talking about fasting, and she went and fasted, and she came out to walk the next morning and kept falling down. We had to lift her and take her home. So she doesn't fast anymore. She just couldn't take it. Her blood sugar tends to drop. So everybody can't do everything in fasting. Intermittent fasting, if you mean by that 2 meals a day, there's no problem there. If you mean fasting certain days of a week, it may be problematic for some people. And in some people, if they have a diabetic gene, they have to be careful with how they eat after the intermittent fast. I think that's what the sister is asking about. But I eat 2 meals a day. I try to get a certain lady to eat 2 meals a day. And I will see her with nuts in the evening, and she'll tell me, nuts ain't count as a meal, but if it's 2 meals a day, it's 2 meals a day. Anyhow, but everybody can't handle intermittent fasting, but it is good to try it, especially if you need to lose weight. I find that ladies want to lose weight but don't want to eat less. It don't work so. You can't depend on exercise alone. You got to eat less and the exercise. But intermittent fasting is good, and you have to know as a person if you're fasting. They're saying that when you get past a certain age, fasting can be ticklish. But when you're young, like Brother Steve and so on, it is all right. And the other question? Well, okay, we don't like to call names in programs that are being aired. Okay. Cooking oils. They have the classification not only of trans fat. It's good when a cooking oil doesn't contain any trans fat. That is good. But there's another classification there. Cheap cooking oils, like corn oil and soy oil, which have been shown not to be healthy. And canola, not to be healthy. Whereas extra virgin olive oil is, and for some people, pure extra virgin coconut oil are good oils, and grapeseed is good oil. Avocado oil, very good oil. So it is not just that it contains no trans fats. Most of the cooking oil in the supermarket are classified as cheap cooking oils, and they are not good. They create inflammation by having too much omega-6 in them.
My brother here at the back, I think this will be our last question.
Just wanted to find out if you could make a comment on Celtic salt and the use of it.
Go ahead, Brother McLean.
I was asking, can you make a comment on Celtic salt and the use of it?
Okay. This is a controversial area. Let me put it this way. Himalayan salt and the Celtic salt and so on, they contain more trace minerals than just plain salt. Although, when you read the Himalayan salt, it says clearly this does not contain an adequate supply of iodine. Now, if a person is suffering from high blood pressure and they need to cut down on the quantity of salt, and they are thinking that if they move from ordinary table salt to another kind of salt, they can use just the same amount. It contains the same sodium chloride, which is still the problem for the high blood pressure. So if you have a high blood pressure problem, you need to cut down on salt. You can't cut out salt, you need salt, but you need to cut down on the quantity. And even that is controversial because there's some experts who don't believe that. I see a man on the YouTube saying that if you cut down on the salt, you can die. And other experts jump in the skin. So the average epidemiological research shows, as we heard in the morning, this morning's from the Bible, be moderate in all things. Let your moderation be known to all men. Be moderate in your salt intake. Too much or too little would be a problem. All right, Brother McLean?
I just want to add, there's a difference between sodium chloride and sodium. For those who would have done that research, the sodium chloride is salty, and it can definitely contribute to the high blood pressure. We know we need to regulate the intake of sodium. We look at the back of the labels and so on, and from there we try to calculate how much sodium intake we should have. I was at Osceolas just yesterday, and just looking through the salt content of the vegetarian foods. You must do that. Extremely high, whether it be Big Frank's or Super Links. And I stuck up a small tin of chili. You won't guess the amount of sodium in that. 2,085 milligrams.
Bad.
Check it for yourself. I was amazed. And the majority of vegetarian foods are preserved with salt. So the more we hold off and use natural things like peas and beans and other things and make our own stuff out of those, the better and the wiser we'll become.
Okay, I want to make a comment on the oil. The lady questioned about, I don't know, Robert's oil, but as Dr. Douglin was talking about the cheaper oils, the corn oils, the soybean oil, you know that most of the soybean is genetically modified. And the corn oil. So don't use them. Unless you know that it's from organic soybeans, the best thing is to avoid it. But most of the oils that they send to Caribbean and to countries where mostly blacks live, that's the kind of oils that they send. Okay? The other comment, on sleep. Oh, wait, before that. The lady asked about anti-inflammatories, and Dr. Douglin gave a good list of things to eat. But apart from taking anti-inflammatories, Also, it is best to not eat pro-inflammatory foods. So cutting out of sugar, gluten. A lot of people are becoming highly sensitive to gluten. Even beef is a pro-inflammatory food. Cheese, milk, dairy, eggs. Can't think of any, but there's a bunch of them that are, there are 15 of them that are usually highly pro-inflammatory foods. The most are, the sugar, the gluten, the dairy, cheeses, things like that are pro-inflammatory. So even if you have a condition where you are trying to take anti-inflammatories, you also have to cut out eating pro-inflammatory foods. The other thing about sleep, between the hours of 9 to 3 a.m., is when our body does all the regeneration and all the repair and all the rebuilding. So what Dr. Douglin mentioned about sleep in terms of getting to bed early, I'm guilty of that too. It's hard for me to get into bed on time, and I'm really trying to work on that because I know how important it is. Between hours of 9 to 3 a.m., that's when the body does all that work. So if you're not in bed, you're going to lose out on all of that. One of the things, other things too, is that the circadian rhythm, they're doing more and more research about it, how the sun rises, then it goes down. And you watch how the animals go to bed when the sun sets. That's important. Now, we're not going to go into bed at 6. Right now, the sun is setting, and we're still here. But it helps with setting the circadian rhythm. So one of the things to do, a little trick that they found, to reset your circadian rhythm. Say if you've not been to bed on time, you're feeling sluggish. In the morning when you get up, early morning, do some deep breathing, just about 4 or 5. And then when the sun is up, look directly into the sunlight. So it's hard to do, but take one eye and just pull the lids apart and look directly in just for a few seconds. Both eyes, and then do it again. That helps to reset your circadian rhythm.
Thank you.
Since there's a Judy mentioned two items, like cheese and milk. I want to say that all those who are human, really shouldn't be drinking milk. Cow milk, that is. Because cow milk was designed to turn a 45-pound calf into a 500-pound cow in 1 year. You mix the cow milk with cocoa, you get chocolate. You mix the cow milk with mold and bacteria and put it down for 6 weeks, it congeals into cheese, which should never have entered the human body from the beginning as cheese. But most people don't know that. And there's a whole set of information on the milk. Don't drink your milk and what it causes to the stomach. Because the stomach, after a certain time, stops producing a substance called casein, which helps to curdle the meat in babies. That facilitates digestion. But not so with human beings who have outgrown that. So be careful. Even the almond milk, you see on the almond box sometimes only 4 or 5 pictures of almond, right? That may very well be a reality. They just blend it up with other stuff and they call it almond. It is much better to take almond, soak them overnight, and then blend it and make your own almond milk. Much better. And I guess there are different types of milk that we can use. There's the oat milk, and there's other types of milk we can use. But making your own milk is much better than resorting to nutrition from the cow's milk, which was never designed for the human body. It was designed for a cow.
Thank you.
Another quick thing on sleep. How many of us are sleeping with or electrical devices charged in our room? That's a sleep disruptor. And we spend a lot of time now on these gadgets, and many of us don't have protectors. That blue light disrupts. On our devices, if we're not using computer glasses, and if we're not using shields on the screen, we're absorbing the blue light, and it's a sleep disruptor. And usually they say you should shut them off at least half an hour to an hour before we go to bed. We shouldn't be charging our cell phones and our devices in our bedroom. Charge it in another room.
All right, we have our sister here and brother Roger Haynes. These are the last two. We have to entertain them because they were waiting for some time. My sister here and brother Roger Haynes to finish off. Yes, please.
Genetically modified foods. Nearly all of our foods here are genetically modified. Can you tell us what nutritionist value they have for us?
None.
And then research show that all of those foods give you just about every cancer under the sun. So what can we really eat here?
Grow your food.
As I tell you, I eat all of my grown provisions. They don't genetically modify sweet potato and yams and breadfruit and those things. But we want to eat macaroni pie. We want to eat all these twisted turnip things and add cheese to it and such and make fancy dishes. Eat.
A lot of our seeds are genetically modified.
Right.
It's not just, and even if you check the sweet potatoes, if you study the foods, you will see that just about nearly everything is modified.
Well, you just do your best, sis. But the best of the lot, but stick to the grown foods. That's the best thing. Nobody is mass producing sweet potatoes and yams and breaders, and breadfruit, and try to modify them to change the structure of them.
The breadfruit is modified. The coconut is already genetically modified.
I don't know where you get that from.
Yes, that is why we have coconut farms at this point in time.
No, I'm talking about the coconut farm. We don't have the coconut farms in Barbados.
But yes, they do. They're grown on acres now. It's not just the coconut tree that's in the gully anymore. You can go to plantations.
Here in Barbados?
Are you speaking
Here
about
in
Barbados?
Barbados.
So if you have that information, I'd like to see it, please. No, share it because I'm not familiar with what is GMO in Barbados and what is not, and I'd like to know.
Everything that we goes into.
Well, saying nearly everything, I know
the
there's certain
sunflower
things.
seeds, the pumpkin seeds. There's so many.
Well, if you have that information, because
Yeah, we would
I
like
would
to
love
know.
to know that.
And we would like to be better informed.
In Barbados especially, because
Yes.
if I'm going to work, I need to know that. Because we need to tell other people.
Because I know our corn is genetically modified. I know the soybeans and such like. But mostly local food ain't get to that point yet.
Check our cassava. You recognize the cassava? You know we had the brown cassava. Now there's this plain cassava. Where did that come from?
That's just a different breed.
Sometimes people
Right.
hybridize
I'm
food.
trying to
Doesn't mean
find
it's GMO.
Yeah, because one time our cassava had contained a lot of cyanide. But that had been bred out of the thing. But that doesn't mean it's genetically modified.
Right. It's hybridized. It might not be genetically modified. So we get. But thanks, so.
Thank you very
I'd
much.
like to
Brother Roger Haynes to close off, please. He's not coming anymore? All right, good. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end. Who had a hand up? Brother Paulette? Oh, he's a plant specialist. Come, Brother Paulette. We can entertain you. We don't hear you at all. I hope you got some more cabbage heads up there for me that you can come pick up. Dr. Douglin, I like the ones that got worms in them because we know if the worms live in, we can live. But if you cabbage head nice and pretty and big and not a worm in sight, keep them. You agree? Very good, Brother Douglin? Right. We want the ones with the worms. Make the best sauerkraut. Go ahead, sir. You got to speak that louder, sir. Can't hear you still. Oh, well. Come up to the front, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
once you are growing these things, you will get worms. I'm not an expert, but what I would say is we create problems for ourselves. When you get genetically modified food and you grow it in a different environment, you change the genetics. Nobody would tell you that it can't grow back and all that. That's lies. I grow them and change it. You understand? But I don't advertise it. When you grow food in your soil and you use different methods, you get a better food than what you buy from outside. There is a process that we have been running from. We like to buy everything. I grow it, plant it back. After 3-4 generations, we get the original seed. You understand? We do not know about these things. We like to buy everything from the store. I grow them and grow them and grow them until I get the original seed. Thank you.
Amen.
Brother Poet, Sister Alice says she would like your number. I just want you to listen here as I close with these few things that I found quite interesting on the internet. One, you cannot out-exercise a bad diet. Y'all believe that's true? I used to believe that. I figured I could eat all the macaroni pie in the world, like a Christianized macaroni pie, and put in all the vegetables I want, use all the vegetarian cheese I want that ain't contain the animal in it, and exercise, and I will get fit. Can't work. There's too much problems with what I was eating compared to the amount of exercise they're doing. And Belgians on the whole don't like doing much exercise. They do the bare minimum. So I can't out-exercise a bad diet. Number two, the lady sent me this. I wish I could be like a caterpillar, go to sleep and wake up beautiful. Can't work. You have to exercise if you want to look beautiful. Otherwise, your body will just age. Number three, good food is medicine. Bad food needs medicine. Think about that. This is one I got from Dr. Douglin. I had this for almost a year now. God does not work a miracle to preserve us in contravention of natural law. Y'all get that? You eat junk, you drink junk, you go sleep late, you up late. Even if you're studying the Bible late, and you don't get in that rest, and you ain't eating right, and you eating all the super links, and the vegan links, and all sorts of links, you will link up with the doctor later on. Because you are breaking all the laws of health under the guise that you are doing good. I found that very interesting. And this is the last one. You will always be criticized by the person who is doing less than you, never by the person who is doing more. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our discussion. I hope that you enjoyed yourselves. I trust that we answered most of your questions. Come back tomorrow morning for tomorrow eve afternoon, starting at 1:30. We start at 1:30, which till 7. 1:30 to 7, get all your health checks done. Don't think that because you're Adventist that you're healthy. Come out, you might be surprised. And there were some things you will need to change, because I used to think that I was healthy too. My brother Douglin was out here talking on the platform. When he does the last lectures every year, I hear him, man, he talking bare foolishness, but I feel like healthy and I feel like good. Till I get this blame breed, till I start getting pains in my knees, till I start getting all sorts of things, and I had to change. People, change is good. Change a lot of these things about yourselves, and you will live longer. Let us kneel for a word of prayer, and Brother Douglin will close us in prayer.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we come in the name of Jesus, giving you thanks for this well-spent seventh-day Sabbath, where we focused on the gospel in its connection with the health message, which we are told is the right arm of the third angel. We thank you for the information shared, the challenges put out, that as your people in the end time, the link between mind and body and the health of both is important for the crisis ahead, when the whole world will be against the third angel's message, and you will have a remnant to stand firm on the faith of Jesus and the commandments of God, with the righteousness of Christ covering and filling. We thank you for the health reform message sent to us as a people. May we, by faith in Jesus Christ, follow it and be healthy in mind and body for the crisis ahead. Thank you for all the visitors who came. Thank you for a wonderful day. And may we, as Seventh Adventists, understand the high calling you've given us, that as the crisis approaches, you are dependent on a people to depend on you, to reveal your love, your character, and your righteousness, and to stand against the beast, the dragon, and the false prophet. Take us away safely now. Give us a good night, a good rest. We thank you for today. Give us a good day tomorrow in the testing day, and continue to prepare a people for the final events. Have mercy upon us, forgive us, and save us. In Jesus' name we pray with thanksgiving. Amen. Let the words of our mouths, the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. God bless you all.
Come out as early as possible tomorrow. Do not wait till the last minute to get your test done. We need you to prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. Go to sleep early tonight, get the adequate rest, get it tomorrow morning and exercise, and then come and get your test done. Thank you.